Today, we are going to talk about possibilities. We're going to talk about how you can show up. I did a podcast, one of my very first ones, talked about you do you, right? And what does that really mean? And can we really do us? Because there's still such a thing as appropriate, and what's aligned for whatever situation you're in. So there's still that. But how can we always show up as fully ourselves as we can be, whether you are in an organization, leading people, leading projects, individual contributor, whatever that is, or you're building a business, or you're just trying to build a life, whatever that is, how do you show up? And so part of that is really about understanding possibilities and truly believing that what you want is possible. So as usual, things happen, and that's how this came up. So I was have been doing a lot of work, a lot of self work, but also a lot of work on these new services for all of you, and really did some deep dive and some really deep digging in 2020 and 2021 around what is it that I'm really called to do in order to serve. What does that look like, right? And so got really probably clearer than I've ever been on all of that. Because we coaches need coaches, doctors need doctors, everybody needs someone to help them think a little bit outside of themselves. And so did that really deep work and really excited about what this is I'm bringing and how I know it's going to be able to impact people. And continually saying, the prayer that let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart always be acceptable in thy sight, right? And that my message and the skills that I have and the abilities and gifts that I've been given, that they reach the person who needs them. And to continue to be curious. Remember, my words are discipline and consistency. And my behavioral mantra is to remain curious, to always ask the question. And so I started asking the question around this possibilities because, the devil is busy, y'all. The devil is busy, y'all. And so it's easy, even when we're in the midst of really great things and really excited about what we're doing, it only takes a second for something to get in your head and say, are you sure? Is that really what you want to do? Is that really what you're supposed to be doing? It takes a second, like a millisecond, for that to happen. And if you let that in, it can prevent you from moving into that space where you're supposed to be. So I was listening to, actually, it was the second time I've listened to this interview. And I'm personally don't consider myself a huge Pitbull fan. I'm the artist Pitbull, not the dogs. The artist Pitbull. I think his music is really cool, but I've never been a big follower of his music. And I just happened to be listening to NPR, of course, and they were interviewing him. And, just like I've said before, don't sleep on some of these rap artists. Like Snoop may put a persona out there that's all, weed head and out there, but he is about his business, right? Nipsey Hussle was about his business. Pitbull is about his business. There are some things that he said that are truly insightful. And so I was listening to that and thinking about all of these things that came up. And he said a couple of things. The first thing he said was, an oppressed mind is a creative mind. An oppressed mind is a creative mind. And so remember, or if you didn't know, he is the son of immigrants, right? Both his father and his mother were immigrants, and they had really, really difficult times when they came to Miami from Cuba. So they were Cuban immigrants. And so it was not an easy life, right? They went through a lot of things, and some good, some bad. Some of the hustles that his dad had were not necessarily the hustles that you should be having, but he had a family to feed, right? And so no judgment. People do sometimes what they need to do. And so he said, an oppressed mind is a creative mind, which made me start thinking, when you're in a situation, a job, an environment, a business, whatever, that is just difficult, that's just hard, that's tough. Sometimes those are the times we get the most creative if we will allow ourselves to ask the question, to be curious, to stay consistent, to stay disciplined, right? To give ourselves some compassion. An oppressed mind is a creative mind. When you have no choice, you find something else to do. You find a way, right? So that was insightful. The second thing he said, he was talking about business or about records and his music. And he said, I'm not pursuing gold records. Gold records is not my thing. He also said money wasn't his thing. He said, it's not about money, it's about freedom, which is a great perspective to have. And he said, I'm not about gold records. What I'm about is I want to make music that lasts. I want people to be singing my music just like they're singing, Bill Withers and everything else. I want my music to last. And that is a very different perspective, the Rutledge perspective, right? That's a very different perspective. It's not about having that hit, that one hit wonder, a la Milli Vanilli, right? It is about long-term impact, about having something that lasts, about having something that is timeless. And so listening to that, thinking about all the work that's been done, thinking about how it's really easy to get inside yourself and get yourself all twisted up, what came to me was this whole idea of possibilities. And of course, some conversations I've had with friends and people in my village as of late and some clients, it's really thinking about possibilities from this standpoint. Whatever it is you want, whatever that desire that's in your heart, that intention you set, that thing you want to manifest, right? Whatever that thing is, do you believe, and I mean truly, truly believe in your heart of hearts that it's possible? That's a deep question. And I don't mean that surface, right? That surface kind of, yeah, because, if I just write it down, it's going to happen. And if I keep working, it's going to happen. That's not what I mean. I mean that deep, undying, unmovable, I know that this is possible. I know this is possible. And the reason I ask you that deep question, I talk about it a little bit more in the podcast this week too. The reason I said that question is deeper is because if you really believe that what you want is possible, then how it happens is irrelevant. How it happens is irrelevant. And that's where we get tied up in our underwear, is the how. As I look at things and I have to be on social media out of duress, right? Because you're not legitimate if you don't have a website and you don't have social media presence. Plus, there's a lot of crazy, insane folks out there. So you kind of want to see who you're dealing with before you deal with them. And I get that. But there's some challenge in social media that we all know. It's been written up for forever. And I succumb just like everybody else. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been thinking about this for months, but somebody already did it first and I should have just gone ahead and done it or should have gotten out there, blah, 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 blah. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But if you think about possibilities, right, it's all possible. And in looking at some of the other things that showed up this week, as I was scrolling and wasting way too much time looking at different reels and stuff, because, that is a rabbit hole that will suck you in. I started thinking, man, everybody, they say you got to be out there 12 times a day. They say you got to do certain kinds of reels or certain kinds of stories. They say you got to do certain kinds of One, who is they? But secondarily, how does that leave room for you to show up as you? How does that leave room for you to be authentically bullseye who you are? Because what helps you to help others is you bringing your unique gifts, right? And so if you really believe that what you want is possible, then the how doesn't matter. If you truly believe it, then you don't have to do everything else that everybody else is doing. That's the fallacy, right? Now, are there formulas, right? Like niching down, as Seth Godin says, right? The narrower your niche, the more clear it is, because a confused mind never buys. The narrower your niche is, the clearer it is for people, right? It's not unkind to be clear. So the clearer you can be, right, the easier it is for people to find you. They know when someone's looking for X, they ask the question about X, and if you say X, then they see you. There are some things that are fundamentally correct and fundamentally the things you should do. But is everything that everybody else says is the formula actually the formula for you? And even if it works for multitudes of people, if it completely saps your energy, why do you do it? Because you can't show up the way you need to show up. There's a whole process that's really big right now where people are truly making, millions of dollars in their businesses by using this process. And it goes over 14 days and it's, and it's bonuses and it's, hour-long sessions. I can't, right? I can't. And even when I looked at what I was doing before, I wouldn't do the 14-day, but I do 3 days, right? Because you got to do more than one day. You know what? I just can't. I know me. I know me. And I want to be able to show up 100%. 100%. I want to be able to give all of my energy because I am very much introverted. I'm extroverted by necessity, right? I get my energy by myself or in very, very small groups. And so that being on takes a lot of energy for me. And to force myself to be on for 14, 15, 16 days because the process says you have to do that, stop, right? But if we are not really believing in the possibility, so strong in the possibility, we allow the how to start unraveling us and start thinking we got to put all this other stuff in because everybody else said so. But you don't. And this is true even in your work. When you go into an organization or you're working in an organization, there's a culture, there's a feel, right? There's a way that people do things. There's a way that people interact in that organization. And on the one hand, you need to know that. You've got to be savvy enough to know that so that you are able to get messages across, you're able to interact, you're able to get things done. You got to know that. You got to know how things operate, right? Which levers to pull. That's important to know. And you also want to be strong enough in who you are and how you operate and the kind of leader you are and want to be that you don't let the culture change you. That you are so grounded in who you are and your level of integrity. One of the people yesterday said one of her grassroots founding root ball things is integrity. That is non-negotiable for her. If things are not operating in integrity, her world is not working, right? And so if that's your thing and you're in an organization that integrity is a little shaky, that is never going to work for you. It's never going to work for you. Stay there long enough, right, to get what you need, to fill your cup, to put some more tools in your toolbox. But understand you're not crazy. You're not a bad person. You're not a bad performer. It's just not a fit. We are so quick to tell people they are bad. They are bad. They are wrong. They are incapable. They don't have the right experience. They don't have the right tools. We're so quick to say that when things are not working, as opposed to digging deeper into the next question and say, is this just not a fit? And that's without judgment because everything isn't a fit for everybody. I know when I was leading my teams, we would have these conversations all the time. And I'm like, there's a difference between somebody who can't do something and somebody who won't do something. If someone can't, then we have a whole cadre of things we can do. Is there additional training? Is there additional support? Is there a different way we can bring things around, right? What can we do to shore this person's skill set up? Because we're not passing judgment on their character. We are just evaluating behaviors and outcomes, right? So if they can't do something that they are charged to do, how can we help them be able to do it? Move their can't to a can. If it's a won't, that's a whole different conversation. Because if someone won't do something that we are requiring them to do, that is a necessity for us, then we have to have a different conversation. And even that won't could turn into a fit issue. You got someone who simply will not come in on time ever. Ever. They are never going to be there before 9:30, 10 o'clock, whatever it is, right? And your days for this particular organization, it has to start at 7 because your client load or whatever, right? And you have some level of flexibility, but the job that this person is in can't move. I'm just making this up as I go along, although it is indicative of some experiences I've had before. That's a won't. So the conversation then becomes, okay, so here's what has to happen. If we can't make this work, then we have got to find a way to help you be successful somewhere else. Right? No hard feelings. We're not saying you're a bad character. We're not saying any of that. We're just saying this particular behavior has outcomes that we can't support. And so if we can't change it, then we've got to do something different. So if you're in an organization and you really believe in the possibilities of how you want to develop as a leader, of the impact you're making, you believe in the purpose of the organization that you're in, the work that they're doing, the product that they build. There's something about that space that speaks to you then how you maneuver through that might have to change depending on where you are in the organization, what level you are in the organization. But if you believe in the possibility of being there and being able to make an impact, then you are able to maneuver in a way that enables you to still pursue the possibilities and not get so caught up in the how. And what's even more important about that when you're in an organization is you have to be able to step back and say, okay, is this really me? Is this a deal breaker? Is it not? Is this just a temporary situation? Is this just a particular environment, boss, department, whatever that just doesn't work for me, but the organization still does, the culture still does. So I just need to find a way to move somewhere else. The possibilities are still strong. So the how is flexible and adaptable. You can move somewhere else. You can build your network. You can find supporters inside. You can apply for that next job internally. Because where you are is where you want to be fundamentally. It's just that direct thing right now isn't working for you. If you truly believe that what you want is possible and how you can give and how you can deliver and the impact you can make is possible, you are so much more able to be flexible in getting there. It's that whole adage that says, you really got to pay attention to the what, but the how is none of your business. The how is none of your business. Now, for those of you who are still in corporate and are killing it, right, in corporate, here's where the rub is, right? I talk a lot about these absolutes. Very few things are absolute. When you are talking about yourself, possibilities, right? Where I want to go, what my end goal is, the journey can move around. The journey can move around because you're keeping your eyes on the prize, as they say, which is a great documentary, by the way. Keeping your eyes on the prize. You can move around, you can morph, you can figure it out. The other side of that coin, though, is the how does become important when you're leading people, when you're in an organization, when you're building a business. How you treat people is an important factor. And the further you go up in the organization, the less it becomes about what you do, right? Your tactical expertise, than how you did it. How did you treat people? How did you set a vision? How did you communicate? How did you respond when things got bad? That how becomes important. So I don't want us to confuse the how of treatment and interaction with people, that connectedness, that communication, with how in terms of action, right? What are the actions we need to take? Staying in empowered action means that you know which actions are moving you forward towards the goal you say you have and the outcome you say you want. It's important to understand that because the how is important in different situations. But when you're talking about major possibilities and truly being just steadfast, unshakable in your ultimate goal, that how of getting there can have options. And we all need options because life is crazy. And by enabling yourself to have options, you also have the possibility of not beating yourself up when the initial action that you're taking didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. You can actually step back and pause and say, okay, let me just evaluate that, right? My behavioral mantra I taught you guys this year is curious, stay curious. So when things go weird, and they are going to go weird, sometimes they're just going to go wrong because that's life. Instead of getting in that death spiral of, oh my God, I can't believe I can't. If I'm staying curious, if I'm living my mantra, I'm like, okay, wait, let's evaluate. What information did I have upon which I decided to take this action? What was the outcome of that action? Why wasn't it what I thought? Was there something else that happened, right? I can evaluate it effectively, unemotionally as much as possible so that I can then change action or modify action to continue to move forward into where I say I want to go. I don't get derailed. I might get detoured, but I don't get derailed because I'm still staying fast in the possibility and the ultimately where I want to go. And I'm letting the how take care of itself. I'm just staying in action and then evaluating that action on a regular basis. I'm staying vigilant. I'm staying aware. I'm staying compassionate with myself. I'm staying open to information from all places, perspective from all places, so that I can see what's really going on and can adjust accordingly. And maybe, just maybe, not changing the ultimate destination or the ultimate desire of my heart, but maybe that even gets more defined as I go along. You know, when I grew up, I knew I wanted to be an MD. I just knew it. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I was trying to get out of school, graduate a year early. I was going to school year round from 7th grade. That's just what I was going to do. Clearly, I'm not an MD. But what has transpired is there's still a doctor there. It's just going to be a PhD or an EDD, right? Or a PsyD. There's a D. It's just not the same D. But it took time as I continued to move and continue to evaluate and continue to learn me and what I really love and what really drives me and the innate skills that I've been given that can make an impact. Where can I best do that? What makes the most sense for me? Now, it also helped that chemistry was not my friend in undergrad. It still fascinates me, but yeah, I'm not good at it. Physics too. Love physics. Love knowing that there's a difference between centripetal motion and centrifugal motion, right? Because we think of a centrifuge and we think of centrifugal motion. Well, it's really centripetal motion. That's my, nerd coming out. So I love those things. But my skill and my aptitude, while I was intelligent and intellectually capable enough to kind of do those things, the amount of effort and work to be able to really be good at it, that wasn't happening. And did I really want to be in a lab if I was going to be a physics major? And what kind of medicine did that really get me into, right? If you give yourself a time to pause and really evaluate and don't sit in those shoulds because everybody else is telling you what you should be doing, you get a chance to give yourself some compassion and give yourself a break and say, what is it that is really, I'm being really led to? What is the real possibility, the real thing that I want? And can I believe that it's absolutely possible? It's not that I didn't believe it was possible for me to be a doctor. I still did. I still do. It's just a different kind of doctor. It's just a different kind of doctor, right? And it's almost full circle for me. It's going back into that area of behavior and behavioral science and psychology, right? It's those areas where not only my innate ability lies, but I am fascinated. And the combination of those two makes it so much easier and so much more aligned with who I am. Therefore, is going to make the journey, even if it's hard, much more palatable, much more pleasant, much more possible. Because it's aligned. It's aligned. That alignment is key. Is the stuff surrounding you, if that's off, do you know what that stuff is? And can you go back and figure out what's not working? And when you know what's not working, then you can go fix that so then you can continue to move forward. But you got to figure out what those things are that ground you. What are those things that are your roots that keep you solid and firmly planted so that you can grow and deliver and move and shake and always come back to home to get re-energized and fed? It's important to know that stuff so that you can be and do what you need to be and do in order to serve the way you want to serve. It's critical. It's critical. And I really think if we can more align ourselves around and believe in possibilities, our ability to achieve what's possible is even greater. The other thing about truly believing in possibilities is that whole idea I talked about earlier about what is it that makes it possible for you? What makes it possible for you? What kind of business do you want to have, right? I got to thinking about Pitbull, and he calls himself Mr. Worldwide, right? Mr. Worldwide. And that hit me some type of way, because I'm like, do I really want to be a worldwide name? Do I really want to be a big global brand? Is that really what I want? Really? Because see, there's stuff you got to do for that. Now there's a level of visibility that I've got now that is more than I ever thought. And I'm good with it. It's forcing me out of my comfort zone in a lot of areas. But it is such a a part of the path that it is no longer painful, right? It's no longer painful. But part of that evaluation of believing in possibilities and that path to possibilities is being able to go back and evaluate and saying, but what does that really look like for me? Because success for me doesn't necessarily look like success for someone else. The same for you. Success for you may look like CEO of a Fortune 100 company. That may be what success looks like for you. And because that's what success looks like for you, and you absolutely believe without a doubt in the possibility of that happening, your path is going to be such that takes you there. You are going to build the village that supports you. You are going to get the training. You're going to get the knowledge. You're going to get the experience. You're going to get the exposure that you need to be able to be a CEO of a Fortune 100. And if your ultimate goal, what success looks like for you, is to have something that enables you to work and make enough money to feed your family and to be free from concern around debt and to have lots of freedom of time, that's different. And that's good too. And your path and the things that you will do to find that role will be different than the person who's trying to be CEO. But both things are good. And both things are true. Remember what I talked about that at the end of the year. Both things can be true. Success for someone can be CEO of a Fortune 100. Success for someone else can be happy, healthy home and family. Because if that's not good for them, none of the other stuff matters. That is their top priority. And that's good. One, there aren't enough companies for everybody to be CEO of a Fortune 100. Because there's only 100 companies in the Fortune 100, right? There's not enough. And there are not enough people who really want it. And there are not enough people who can really do it. But there are enough organizations with different cultures and different products and different processes and different belief systems and different values and different givebacks that you can find your space. You can find your spot. You can find that place that you were supposed to be and step into that fully and believe with everything in your soul that it's going to happen. But you got to give yourself the opportunity to have so much belief in that you don't get caught up in the how. Don't get caught up in the path. You let yourself move and shake as necessary. You let yourself detour when necessary. Because very few paths are straight. Very few paths are straight. And as I saw this the other day, right? If the path is easy, then you must be on somebody else's. Because very rarely, there may be some things that are so in your zone that they are easy for you, right? They're so in your zone of genius that it's clearly what you're supposed to be doing. But even getting to that, there's always going to be some hiccup. How strong are you standing in your possibilities? How strong are you standing in your gifts that you can allow that to be simply a detour and not a derailer? All right. We committed last week that we were going to take a quick break before the end of the show to say hey to people. So Miss Jerry, who we got this time on the show? Because we are doing some incredible things here at KCOH TV Radio, The Boost. And 2022, I want to make sure I'm taking all of 2022 and continue to say thank you. Continue to call out those people who are taking time and taking effort to listen and to tune in and to comment and all that kind of stuff. Because it really does matter. It really does matter for me that we have a global reach, right? And I think you guys saw posted last week, we had Finland and we had Spain and we had Samoa. We've never had Samoa before. I've never had Samoa before. It was really cool.
Well, locally right now we have Wichita Falls, Houston, of course, Kansas City, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, New York, Denver, and St. Louis, Washington, D.C. And let's see, trying to make sure I got these other cities. Hold on a second. Globally, we have the UK, the Philippines, Brazil, Germany, Mexico, France, and Bolivia.
Oh, love it. Yes, Bolivia, I think you were a new listener last week too. Thank you all so much for tuning in, especially our global, because I know it's end of the day for you guys, or late afternoon for you guys. And I love doing this, and I love talking to you guys, and I hope that the message that comes through is something that matters and that resonates. So back to possibilities. So thank you again. Thank you globally. Thank you locally. Thank you U.S. and states. Thank y'all.
Let's give a shout out to the Facebook people.
Oh, Facebook.
Michelle Johnson, good morning. Esther Jones, just out of St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
Annette Phillips out of New York. We've got Cynthia Patterson on this morning. We've got Dr. Jacqueline Cobbins on this morning.
All right.
As well.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, y'all. And when you talk about possibilities and truly believing in possibilities and standing strong that it is possible, that all things are possible. This show itself is an indication of possibilities. I said January 2019, I am going to be more visible. That was what I wrote down. I'm going to be more visible. I wrote it down. I told people, right? I am going to be more visible. I did some things that year around broadcasting, right? And broadcasting your brilliance and getting out there and really dug into the podcast and dug into video and all of those kind of things. And at the end of that year was when this show showed up in my life. I believed that it was possible to be more visible. I didn't know how that was going to happen. Because here's the deal. When you're embarking on something new, you don't know how. You don't know how. I've been in the business world a long time. I know how businesses run. I know how you set things up. I know all that stuff. I'm by no means your business expert, right? But I'm really good at what I do just because I've been in it a long time. And yet this whole idea of setting up your own thing, number one, services is a little bit different, and services, especially online, right, is different. But the other thing is, it's very, very difficult for you to see some of the same things when it's yours. It's much easier to see pitfalls, to understand, to give advice when it's somebody else's, when you're looking from outside, because you're not emotionally involved. So I absolutely believed that it was possible for me to be more visible. And I knew I was going to do the work to make that happen, but I didn't know how. And I worked really hard to let go of the how. I was not successful all the time, but I worked really hard to let go of the how and just kept doing what I knew to do. And then Jerry popped up, right? Through a series of other networks, right? Through a series of other network connections. The possibility popped up. And I still wasn't ready. I've told y'all this story before. I was like, I don't know. Well, maybe. Let me think about it, right? But we did it, and we held it down.
Can I say this real quick? When you say you still weren't ready, it was a young lady named Valerie Gibson, who's an incredible singer, but she's very humble. Mm-hmm. And she was supposed to do a song that night. We had this concert here. And she was telling me that she had acid reflux and she don't think she could do it.
Right.
And before I knew it, I turned into Ike Turner and said, oh, you're going to go in there and get coke and you're going to get that acid down and you're going to get up on that stage. And that's the way I feel about you when you were like, I don't know. I said, well, look here.
Right.
Get it down and you're going to get up on this mic. So sometimes we do need that strong arm.
We do.
Because we already know what we have in us. But it is helpful that other people at times can be those pushers for us to do that, because I believe God sends that help when he knows we're ready.
Absolutely. You have to be ready. And that's why I always encourage you, as hard as it is, do the deep work. Do the deep work on you so that you can understand when you're just operating in fear, when there really is something that's sending you red flags to say, maybe you need to rethink that, because there is a difference. And your gut instinct will tell you when something isn't quite right. Right. But you need to spend enough time with yourself to know the difference. To know the difference between, I don't want to do that just because I'm fearful or I'm being contrary or what have you, or I don't want to do that because something around that doesn't feel right. That feels like it's going to be a problem, right? Do the deep work so you know the difference, so you can show up.
Quick question. We just had Dr. Abraham on, and we were talking about that you have to know the difference of when it's you and when it's a fear. Mm-hmm. And she also said sometimes it's a trauma that you could be in and such an understanding of doing this, and you're ready to do it. And then the moment you get ready to do it, something comes back to tell you maybe this is not the right time.
Right.
What do you
Those
have
triggers.
that happen?
Oh yeah. You know, if you are older than just born, you got some kind of trauma. There is something you experience that is going to trigger something, because that experience led to an outcome which impacted you. And therefore, if you see that again, you're going to expect that same outcome. And so, and it may be good or bad, right? But if you're doing the deep work and you're really understanding, one of the pieces of that is understanding your own triggers. Understanding your own triggers. What are the things that send you into whatever it is? What are the things that give you debilitating fear? What are the things that make you say, I just don't want to do that? What are the things that prevent you from showing up? And being kind and compassionate around that with yourself, because those possibilities, you can believe in them with all your heart, right? You have to. If you're really going to achieve them, you have to believe them with every fiber of your being. And you have to give yourself the support and put the support around you to be able to challenge and recognize when some kind of trigger is preventing you from achieving that possibility. So that when you see that trigger, you can understand, you know what? We talked about this before, right? I can see that and I can say, you know what? That experience was true. That experience is a fact. But the story I'm telling myself about that experience is not. Right? I understand that this happened, but the story I'm telling myself about that is not true. And that is everything from weight loss to food trauma to whatever, right? One of the things I've shared with you guys before for me is, man, you know, my body just is not going to be where I want it to be ever. It's just not. That's a story. That's a story. That's in my head. Because I've got experience that says, well, you can go down, but you're always going to go back up. You can go down, but you're always going to go back up. It doesn't stay. It doesn't, right? I've got that real experience. So because that experience is real, it allows a story to attach to that says, you're never going to be where you need to be because you cannot. Your body cannot. It is never going to do it. Your experience tells you it's not. That's the story that plays. But if you do the deep work, right, if you really start to peel that back and say, okay, the experience is true, but the story is not necessarily true, because I got to understand what environment I was in, what mindset I was in at that time that the experiences were happening. Because if that's not the same environment I'm in now, then I cannot necessarily expect the same outcomes. In fact, I can expect better outcomes, or at least different outcomes, because I'm different. I'm in a different place. I've got a different level of understanding. And it's the same thing for you. When you are really sitting in possibilities, even when you see something that says, oh, are you sure? I don't know. You said that's what you want, but you know, last time, blah, 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 right? Insert story here. Giving yourself the opportunity to stop and say, wait, okay, that experience did happen, but is that story I'm telling myself around that true? And that's really important. You know, when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's one of the things that's so bad about people dismissing or trying to explain somebody else's lived experience. When somebody comes to you and says, you know what, I was in this meeting and here's what happened and this is what that said to me. Oh, well, that's not what they meant. I need you to take that out of your vocabulary. That's not what they meant. You just misunderstood. That's not really what they said. Stop it. Because you are negating someone's lived experience. And that lived experience is usually tied to some other kind of outcome that gives them an idea of what this ultimate outcome is going to be. So stop that. Instead, listen to understand. What was it about that certain situation that made you think that way? What was it about that gave you that feeling? Understand. You still may not have the same lived experience. You still may not have heard it the same way, but just because you didn't doesn't mean it's not true for that other person. And you have to give yourself the same, right? When you are hearing something, seeing something, I can't believe they said that. I can't believe they did that. I can't believe I thought that. Pause and ask yourself that question. Be curious. Okay, What did you hear? Are you sure that's what they said? Right? Did they say it in that context? What space are you in? What space are you in mentally, emotionally? Was there some other trigger that made you hear that? Right? You can ask yourself the little bit more deeper, challenging questions because it's you. And you can have that deeper conversation. But when someone else outside of you says, I don't know, are you sure? And it's all about the tone too, right? Are you sure? That's not what they meant. I think you probably got that wrong. You just misunderstood. Are you having a bad day? You know, all that madness. Just don't do that to anybody anymore. If you're listening to this today, don't do that anymore. If you have to do that, just say nothing. Just say nothing instead. That's less traumatic for somebody for you to just say nothing than to say, are you sure? I don't know. I didn't hear that. Stop. And if it's you, if you're doing that to yourself, right? I can't believe they said that. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe. Pause. Practice the pause. What did I hear? What did I see? What did I feel? Is it connected to something other? Am I building a story around that may not be true, that is based on factual experiences, but the story itself may not be true? You do that discernment so that you can stay in your possibilities. Because if you truly believe it's possible, the how doesn't matter. You'll be able to be flexible. You'll be able to detour and not derail because you've sat strong in what you believe is possible. But it's not easy. It's not easy, especially if the thing that you want and desire is not anything you have ever had before, not anything you've ever seen before. If it's way, way out there, when we say dream big, if your dream is big, it's huge, it is otherworldly, it's sometimes hard to sit in that possibility. But here's the other thing about that dream and that desire. Make sure it's yours.
Yeah.
Make sure it's yours, right? Make sure if you're going out saying, I want to be, there's so few women who have 8-figure businesses. I want to be a woman that has an 8-figure business. Okay. Do you? Do you really want that? Or do you want that because everybody says you should? Mm-hmm. And if you do, okay. But if you don't, that's okay too. What do you want? Because when you decide what's possible, you've also got to be willing to do the work to make it happen. Mm-hmm. You've got to be willing to do the work to make it happen. And you want to be willing to understand when things may change because life happens. And is that outcome still the ultimate outcome you have? And that's good. If it is, that's great. Sit in that. Keep it. And maybe the detour might be a year, it might be 2 months, might be 10 years. But if you still got that dream and you still believe in possibilities, you can understand that the how is none of your business and keep moving. And you can look at that dream and say, is that really my dream? Or is that everybody else's dream? And I feel like it's supposed to be my dream. That's supposed to, man, is tough. It's supposed to be my dream. Every entrepreneur is supposed to want to be, a gazillionaire. Every entrepreneur is supposed to want to be famous. Everybody's supposed to want to be, Elon Musk and Oprah. That's what you're supposed to want to be. If that's your desire, I say, have at it. Go for it. You do you. Make it happen, right? Dig deep. If that's what you want, then believe it is possible and keep moving. And if it's not, that's cool too. You do you. And do whatever it is that your heart's desire to your best ability. To your best ability. Because what's interesting about doing that is when you set that ultimate goal that's really yours and you work really hard towards that ultimate goal that's really yours, you will likely far exceed anything you ever thought. Because you believed in the possibility of that achievement and you worked towards it and you didn't let things just take you off just because. And that gives you a vision, a power, an energy, a capability to keep it moving. And so your ultimate outcome may be far beyond what you even imagined. because you really did sit with something that was in your heart that was yours and not everybody else's. And for those of you who have kids, and especially kids who are now trying to figure out what they're going to do, are they or are they not going to go to college? Or what major do they want to have? All that kind of stuff. Because we ask kids very young, what do you want to be when you grow up? Mm-mm. What's the kind of work you want to do? What do you want to be doing every day? What are the kind of things you want to do? What brings you joy? Where do your skills lie? If you've got a kid who says they really want to be a surgeon and they can't stand math and don't do well in science, instead of saying, you know what, I don't know why you're saying that, because, you know, you just made a D in this. You can't do that. You need to think of something else. Instead of that, okay, that is an admirable goal. In order to make that goal, here's the things that you have to be able to do. And if that's where you're going, I got you. But understand, you've always said you hated, you know, math or science or whatever it is, English. You hated being in front of people, but you say you want to be an actor. I got you if that's what you want to do. But I need you to be really, really clear with yourself, because here's the stuff that's going to happen in order for you to make that dream come alive. So instead of just saying no, or you're crazy, or you got to be kidding me, be clear about what it means and supportive about what it means. Not everybody wants to go to college. Nobody's meant to go to college. There are some things that still in this day and age, there are some hurdles that get you over if you have a college degree. But to tell someone that they're not going to be able to support their family because they don't have a college degree is just a lie. And we don't lie on the Rutledge Perspective, right? That's just a lie. It's about what is really going to enable you to do what you need to do. You know, we think about, are you in a professional job or not? If you're showing up to work every day, my brother says this all the time. If you're showing up to work every day and you are doing what you're supposed to do, and you are making things happen, you're a professional. Just because it's blue collar instead of white collar doesn't make it any less professional. Just like hair being curly, it doesn't make it any less professional than hair being straight. Professional is about showing up and doing what you committed, being a person of your word. That's about being professional. So if you got kids who are really thinking about something different, ask questions, right? Be curious. That's interesting. Why are you thinking that? What is it about it that you like? What does it mean to you? What do you think that's going to be? And oh, by the way, you know what? I'm all about it. And if you decide to change, let's just talk about it. I'm not going to force you to change. I'm not going to tell you got to change. I'm just going to say there's a way to change. Because the last study I read said most kids change college majors, the ones that go to college, change college majors an average of 3 to 4 times. Average 3 to 4 times. That means there's some people that are like 5 to 6. Because you get in, like me, and you take physics and you still love it, but that's not where your aptitude lies. And the amount of work you're going to have to do to get even average at it, right, to be able to even function in it is just more than you're willing to do, or maybe even capable of doing. And that's okay. There's no judgment on your character. It's just everybody isn't meant to do everything. So that same grace that I'm asking you to give yourself, give those kids around you, whether that's your biological kids, nieces, nephews, play kids, daughters from other mothers, whatever. Young people that you are leading, coaching, supporting, advocating for in your organization. Ask them questions. Ask questions. There is no more powerful tool than a question. A question asked honestly and an answer listened to actively. Nothing more powerful than that kind of communication. Because you learn so much. You learn about mindset. You learn about capability. You learn about desire. It's a powerful thing. So as you finish the rest of this week, one, hopefully you signed up for my 5-day series, and I'll see you guys at 1:00 for about 15, 20 minutes to go over today's question and see if you have any questions. See if you have any questions or comments. But go out and really sit in the possibilities. Whatever the desire is of your heart, believe it. Believe that it is possible, and then do whatever it takes to make it happen. Whatever it takes for you to make it happen, not what everybody else tells you got to do. Take advice from experts, of course, but you've always got to filter advice through what's possible for you and for your own capabilities. Do what's important for you.
You said sit in the possibilities, and back in the day we would call that daydreaming, but it actually is really sitting in the possibilities of what can be. And then I like what you said about just because you said take advice from the experts, but that doesn't always mean that even what they say is what you're supposed to do. Right. We were talking about social media and how you just didn't want to show up like that. Yeah. And maybe that's not the route, because I've seen people go different paths. Yes. And some did less and went further because they were in their authentic self. And I think that's the whole gist of what you're saying, is to really just be authentic and true to who he has designed you to be, and get around other people. And when you talked about that, I see my friend Chastity on. I had a meeting with her this weekend, and she's so well versed in her business and her knowledge. And I was asking her of a path to take to do something. And the more she began to talk and she was excited about it, it was more like, what? Yeah. There. And so I said, is there another way? Right. When you think about that, you think you want something until you really have to hear what it takes to get it. Yes. And so we have to be honest about that when we say, okay, it may be an overload. I thought I wanted it, but maybe let's go another route so I can get to that. Exactly. Or let's go another route because I don't want that. Yeah, I don't think I. Because ultimately, the work and the learning and the energy that's going to take to do that thing is not worth it to me, because I really would rather spend my energy and stuff somewhere else, which is more authentic to me. And that's okay. Because everything isn't for everybody. That's right. And it's okay to do you. Just do you. Be kind. Be compassionate. Don't hurt somebody else, but just do you. All right, y'all. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all my global listeners. Thank you to all the Facebook folks. Thank you to folks on my Facebook who I can't see today. Thank you for folks who tuned in on StreamYard. For people who are listening on the app, TuneIn app, Alexa app, KCOH app. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We will catch you next time. For those of you signed up for the 5-day, I'll see you guys at 1:00 Central on Zoom. The link is in your email. Take care, everybody. Bye.